Welcome to the Wellness Empowerment Project. I'm Trish.
And I'm Julie. We are two nurses exploring holistic healing and wellness practices to empower you to be the leader of your own health. Join us as we try out new things, or as we call it, weird shit, and have some fun along the way. Welcome to the 1-year Wellness Empowerment Project anniversary episode. Can you believe that we made it a whole year, Trish?
The anniversary.
Happy anniversary. We made it.
We made it. We did it. And I think I should start out, make sure everyone knows that we did not really prep for this episode. We prepped, but we really didn't do any prep, which I feel like is going to make it fun. We're winging it. We're winging it. But I'm saying that we're winging it because we thought it would be fun to almost interview each other about some of our thoughts and experiences over the first year of doing the podcast. We definitely have some questions for each other. But when I say winging it, I mean we did not review any of the answers. We have not talked to each other about this. So all of our reactions and conversation is going to be very real time.
I just want to say that when we started this, I had no idea what we were getting ourselves into, how big or how small we were going to be. I was a little fearful, I will say, of being a terrible interviewer. I want to give ourselves a little pat on the back because we have actually accomplished quite a bit in this past year with this little podcast.
Yes, I believe we did. And I feel like it challenged us in ways that we didn't expect. I also feel like it brought things to light that I may have forgotten about or didn't know was there in a positive way.
Yes, me too. Me too. I want to say that I am very grateful to our little community that shows up and listens to our episodes. We have had our episode air in 19 different countries, which is pretty cool. I want to give a special shout out to the United Kingdom, Canada, and France, because they're the top 3 behind the United States. I find it a little bit fun to see of all the different places that people have listened to us.
It's eye-opening, isn't it? Because I think I remember, especially when we first started, we were seeing a listener from the UAE.
Yes.
Which, by the way, is my friend Sarah, who we interviewed. We did the episode Power of Play with her. So definitely go back and take a listen. And I remember us looking at it and at one point even being like, who's listening at the UAE? I'm like, oh, yeah, that's Sarah. That's probably her. That was one thing. But actually knowing that I cannot pinpoint people that are actually listening to the episodes in other countries, like I can't say I know you directly. It's exciting.
There is one country that I've never heard of called and I'm probably going to butcher how to pronounce this, Aland Island. It's spelled A-L-A-N-D, Islands, and it has a little emphasis mark over the A. Aland Islands.
That's part of Finland. I'm just looking it up
Is it?
now.
Oh, okay.
It says it's part of Finland. My first thought was like, oh, is that near Cecilia, who lives on Svalbard Island, close to the North Pole? Have you met her on TikTok? I love watching her.
No.
Everyone, go check out Cecilia on Svalbard Island, close to the North Pole. She does great videos talking about her life there, and it's pretty exciting. The Aland Islands are definitely not as north as Cecilia, but I think it's pretty cool that we have someone that's listened to us all the way there.
Yes. Tanzania, Philippines, Chile, South Africa, Russia, India, Ireland. Pretty excited to think that there's somebody out there somewhere on the other side of the world that is taking the time to listen to us. So thank you. Thank you for listening.
Yes, thank you everyone who's listened to us, even if it was only once. And a special thank you to anyone who's even recommended our podcast. I think there's a lot of crazy shit in the world. And as we talked about, there's a lot of weird shit too. I would like to think that we brought some fun to the game of all of our talks. Yes, a lot are very serious and a lot maybe a little on the more medical side, but I think some of it was really freaking fun.
There's a lot of things out there, a lot of weird shit out there that was weirder than I thought it was going to be. I was like, I don't know how this is going to roll. But I'm here. I'm showing up for it, and let's go.
That's right. Wave the freak flag, everybody. Loud and proud.
And thank you to anybody who also left some comments and reviews for us. That's certainly helpful to us to hear your feedback as to whether you appreciated or you learned anything from the episode. Liking and rating us does help us to grow a little bit. And I'm excited to see where season 2 goes.
Yes, completely. You know what? Before we even start talking about season 2, I want to give one more thank you, which was a huge stretch for me, and I think Julie, you'd probably agree, is for those of you that don't follow us, we also have an Instagram page at Wellness Empowerment Project. And we started out this by doing a launch party on Instagram. We had 5 or 6 other entrepreneurs that put donations out there for anyone that listened, followed, and commented on one of our first 3 episodes that we all batch put out there the very first time. And so I'm so grateful for all of them and everyone who participated in our little launch party. That when we first said we're gonna do that, whew, that was a big stretch for me. I historically have not been a big, at least before that, I cannot say I was a big social media person. I felt like that was even harder than the podcast itself.
You certainly claimed the social media portion of our podcast, and you've done a great job. You've grown our community through Instagram and Facebook. And so I thank you for that because
Aw,
I'm not a big social media person myself. I had to learn a lot of little things about Instagram and reels and stories that I hate to say that I didn't really know before because I didn't have to.
let's face it, I'm definitely not a social media queen here, but I have over time learned the basics enough for us to get this off the ground. What I'm grateful for is that, Julie, you volunteered to take on the editing portion of this, which I'm not the most technological person. So I was a little, I got to I wiped some sweat off my brow when you volunteered for that. And I'm like, all right, have at it.
I've always been like a really type A when it comes to editing just written documents. And I thought, oh, this will go hand in hand. I had to learn
Fun fact, it's not.
it helps, but I had to learn a whole lot of new stuff to figure out how to edit our podcast and produce it, I guess. Publish it.
Publish it.
Yes. Yeah. That was a hard learning curve. And I just want to express gratitude to your friend Elsie, who spent
Yes.
time. She spent some time with me and showed me the basics and went through it. She edited our first few episodes. And without her, I would have been really lost.
And
So,
she took time to give a little in service as well. So she didn't like just do them and leave them. She like did them and had little meetings and showed us what to do. And
yeah, she,
that friend LC, everyone, Laura Christine, she does a podcast called 100 Ways. We'll have a lot of show notes for this. So if you guys want to go back to anything that we mentioned, you definitely can go back and support all these people or re-listen to some of these episodes that you may have missed or you may want to listen to again. Which really I think gets to, I would say, my first question for you, Julie. For season 1, what was your favorite episode and why?
that's a tough one. I was going back through all of our episodes over the last year just to refresh my memory because after recording them, editing, publishing them, they all are amassed in my brain at this point. There's a bunch of them that I really enjoyed, but I think that one of my favorites was our New Year's glow up.
Really? I'm
Yeah,
really surprised you said that.
yeah, I think that was a fun episode. There was a lot of things in there that kind of combined some of the things that we learned from interviewing other people in our show,
Mm.
and I just thought it was fun.
Interesting. I thought you were going to have the same answer as mine. My favorite episode was the heart rate variability episode. One of the reasons why is I distinctly remember I don't know if you called me or you texted me or you voice memoed me. I can't remember. It's a blur, but I just remember you saying that how proud you were of us for that episode. So probably how you felt about that episode influenced my feeling of that episode. But it was one of the ones earlier on that we did, ourselves. That one definitely took a lot more prep than normal, or not well, I hate to say than normal, but than we typically do. I loved it because it took a lot of the stuff that I've been learning, and for me, teaching helps me even learn it deeper. So, when you said that you listened to it and how proud you were of us, I felt like for me, that, like, solidified the deal. That was, like, my favorite
That was a top contender, I will say,
episode.
because I look at my heart rate variability every day, and
Still.
it is still, yep,
Wow.
I do. And digging into what it is and why you would wanna watch it, I just did feel like we did a really great job with that topic.
Yes. So please, if you haven't listened to it, go back and listen to that one, mostly because it's one of our favorites.
Yes.
And
Did
then
you have
years
a
oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, did you have a favorite interview?
That was hard, right? Because I feel like, especially now, fun fact, everyone, we're already recording for season 2. And I already have some favorite ones for season 2. We're not even halfway through them yet. But that, I think, is how fun season 2 is gonna be. But my favorite interview, I think probably have some bias in this. I think one of my favorite interviews, and there was 2 I was debating with between, but I think if I see this one, I think I know what one you're gonna say, Julie. I actually would think I was gonna say the spinal energetics interview with Brittany, and I
Really?
think I liked it because Brittany and I met randomly on Instagram. I think she was following me, and I started talking to her, just having a normal conversation, and I was like, "Hey, you wanna be on our podcast?" And she was like, "Sure." And the day before the interview, I'm like, "I wanna have a session. I wanna see what this is like." We don't always do that. We cannot experience, like, every single person we interview before we interview them, and some of them we don't necessarily always experience after because we're not infinitely wealthy, so we can't just do everyone's services, even though I think I would totally love to do that too. Donate to our GoFundMe so we could just have fun doing everyone's services that comes on our podcast. But yes, I ran down there and I met her in person, which was just lovely. And I had my first spinal drink session with her, and I just thought it was very interesting. I definitely had a result. And so I loved it when we had our interview and you talked about things, and I was able to connect things that actually happened in my session. Just felt like it was this great bridge between talking about the modality and then being able to discuss an experience with it. You don't always get that dichotomy. So I think that's why it was my favorite. And then I have to add this one little note too is that fun fact, I actually saw Brittany today I just actually came back from seeing her. We both met up at a wellness expo, exploring different expos to see if we want to visit them or not. Her and I were both out and exploring together earlier today.
That's fun.
What's
I think
yours?
I felt like my favorite interview was actually with Dr. Catherine Darley, the sleep expert.
Oh, okay. I'm surprised. That's not what I thought.
I thought that she provided so much good information. She was prepared. She was down to earth. I really just enjoyed that episode and that interview a lot. Yeah. I
I had somebody actually say to me they're having issues sleeping, and I've been able to just send them that episode. So I would say that's one thing I liked about that episode too, is that it was so specific. Someone says, "I'm having trouble sleeping." Oh, I have a podcast episode for you to listen to on that.
Yes, I just felt like there were so many good techniques and strategies to improve your sleep and so many good takeaways.
Yeah.
So I think that's my favorite interview, to
Mhm.
tell you the truth.
So what unexpected thing do you think you learned over this last season? And I said thing because I don't necessarily I feel like I want it to be broad enough, you know what I mean? Because it's something that we learn. So maybe it's something we learned from an interview or an episode, or maybe it's just something that we learned from the process of podcasting.
I think the most unexpected thing that I learned really was around emotional energy in your body and what impacts that can have on you. And how you process it and how you deal with things has a physical, emotional, and a spiritual impact on you, which I feel like, duh, I
Would
should
that
have
go
known that.
into the aha moment that you had? Is your aha moment the "duh" moment? It could be. A lot of
No,
times they are.
but I feel like it wasn't necessarily aha. It was more like, oh, that makes total sense. It,
Mhm.
it just makes total sense. And I just never thought of it in that perspective. And I think that's why it was unexpected to me. I don't have a background in energy healing or anything like that, but I live that way. I talk that way. And for somebody to really define it for me in different terms really made me identify with it quite a bit.
Mm, love
What about
that.
you? What about you? What unexpected thing did you learn?
Honestly, what I found surprising, and now I'm, like, just owning it, it's a lot easier to have people wanna come and talk on a podcast than I ever thought it would be. We've definitely gotten guests that I have known personally, which probably is how we started just because it was safe. But then we expanded out to complete strangers. For me, that was really unexpected because I guess I still had this mindset that like you had to have everything perfect and you had to have this. And if you're not a big podcast, no one's going to listen to you. I almost felt like we had to have our ducks in a row before we could get people to speak on the podcast. And I don't think that was consciously in my awareness. I think it was definitely in the subconscious. But as we did this, what I've realized is so many people just want to tell their story and through their story, help other people. I think that is what I thought, even though that was maybe our intention in this podcast is to create a space where we can talk about different ways that we can heal, different ways, different aspects of wellness. I guess I didn't realize that really that I think is a big link behind the podcasting community. No matter what you're talking about, most people just want to come on, talk about their story, talk about how they figured out things worked, and hopefully help one person, if not more.
Yeah, the way people showed up that we don't know to talk on our podcast and just talk about different things that have happened in their life and how they have worked their way through them and gotten to a better space. That's pretty amazing.
And when you think about it, I feel like opposite from the corporate hospital world, even in the sense of how we got things done, even in management, right? A lot of it was like, who did you, and what was your relationship with them? How much you can wiggle your way through the system. Whereas here, I felt like everyone almost shows up with open arms.
Yeah, the podcast community is certainly a different space. I feel like it's very different from even social media.
I agree with that 100%. I feel like we connect with people more on podcasting. It's easier for you to express yourself. I think it's easier for people to get to know you. And I do think it is overall a more accepting community.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Agreed. So any aha moments that happened over the year?
I don't know about that. I was trying to think of what aha moments I've had. That's hard for me to remember. Do you have any aha moments?
It wasn't from an actual podcast episode, but one thing that I realized is that the more, and I don't think I realized this till I started getting interviews for season two, is I think I realized I was like, wait, I'm a connector. Years ago, and I don't know if anyone else has read this book, I read Malcolm Gladwell's book, The Tipping Point. I remember reading this book and I remember him talking about connectors that bring people together. The strength in connectors is that they are occupying many different worlds and they help bring the different worlds together. I don't remember ever, I think when I read it, I thought that I was a connector, but in a very different sense. And now that we've been podcasting and one of my roles is bringing people to our show, and now I'm starting to go on to their shows, I do actually see, and even from our launch party, I was like, wait, I was like, the reason why I'm finding this enjoyable is because I'm a connector. It's not work for me. I find it easy, enjoyable, fun getting into the conversations. And I'm not saying I haven't had anxiety or stress originally, being like, oh my gosh, I have to, reach out to these people and ask them and blah, blah, blah. But with the podcast, I think because I had a space or we had a space to offer people to come to, it made it a lot easier. So I didn't have all that about stress and anxiety over even asking. Yeah, I love bringing people into our community, and it makes me more comfortable going into other communities as well.
That's cool. It's definitely cool. After this past year, do you feel like you see things differently?
That's a really good question. What I see is that we're all trying to do the same thing, but we're all communicating it in a different language. The purpose of that is that we're going to connect with different people. And I think it takes the pressure off of you trying to be like unique or special or find this big new thing. You don't have to. You just being yourself is the big new thing because how you view something and how you communicate something, it's going to resonate with people that resonate with you. Even though it may have the same underlying theme as someone else, that's okay because they're going to be resonating with their people.
Yeah, that is something that I feel like has been a theme that has weaved its way through this past year that people go through hardships, and everybody that came on and had a story, they had some sort of experience that either physically challenging
Yep.
them, spiritually or emotionally challenging them, and they were seeking out a way to heal themselves. A lot of them started with typical Western medicine and either became frustrated or it didn't align with them. So they started to seek out other ways to help themselves. They did it in very unique ways and they found healing. To me, that's pretty profound that you can heal from all kinds of things in all kinds of different ways. But what resonates with you and what you are consistent with is the right thing for you.
Yeah, it definitely is a twist from, I would say, the more our modern day culture of finding out the right thing. What's the right thing? What's the wrong thing? What's the one thing to do? And there really isn't a right or wrong. There may be something that's better than another, just depending on what you're looking at. But at the end of the day, what works for you is the right thing for you.
One of my big takeaways is also that the body is very complicated in how it wants to heal itself.
Smart.
And it's really smart.
Smart.
If you trust it, first of all, you should trust it much more than you ever thought. That's something that I view very differently now. I need to trust my body and myself much more because that may take me to exactly where I need to be.
Oh, yeah. And I think what we don't talk about enough is that we have a relationship with ourselves, but that relationship with ourselves is also a relationship with our body. We usually talk about relationships with other people, relationship with your work, your colleagues, your friends, your family, but we rarely talk about the relationship with yourself. And thing is, when you have something going on, whether it's mental, emotional, or physical, that changes the relationship with yourself. So it makes sense that you really need to work with you and hear what your body's telling you instead of, as we do now, we go to an outside expert, but you're the inside expert and what you
Yeah.
think counts.
Mhm.
What you feel means something. Your intuition is probably guiding you in the right direction.
The way we were trained as nurses, everything is its separate system. And we still have these separate systems your physical being, your mental, and your spiritual or your emotional, when actually they're all together. They're all integrated together. And the more we realize that when you think of yourself, that self is your thoughts, it's your emotions, it's your physical being, and they impact each other up and down, back and forth, sideways, diagonal, inside, outside, much more than you realize.
Yes. And I think to even hit that point home in our current medical system, everything is a specialty or a subspecialty. We're very siloed in the way we care for patients and for each other. The thing is, though, you don't normally just have the GI issue. You have your IBS, but you probably have anxiety too. And it's probably a nice little loop that you have going on in that mind body connection that you probably have more control over than you even think.
Right.
And once you start viewing, I think, yourself as a whole being, you have a lot more possibilities for healing.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot more ways that you can influence yourself.
On that note, do
On
we
that note,
talk about some changes for season 2?
I do. I'm excited for season 2.
I have to tell you guys, we recorded the third interview, I think it was, the other week, and we laughed a lot. You may not hear all of it because of the way audio recording goes, but I will tell you we laughed a ton. It was very long and could have went on longer,
Yeah.
but yeah, it just makes me so excited for season 2. We are exploring a lot more about women's health, the peri and menopausal times in our lives, start the days. But we have a lot of other things too that are going to be coming in the works that I'm excited about too. We have a face reader, which we never heard of before. And pretty sure most of you haven't either. We have some Chinese medicine, acupressure, acupuncture. We have a human design woman coming to speak. And I actually was just on her podcast the other day, and we had such a fun episode. I cannot wait to have her on ours. I think it's going to be really good. So, without giving too much away,
Yes, I think that these first several interviews that we've already done for season 2, really excellent people that we've contacted, experts in their field, fun, positive, you know, they're really great episodes. I'm excited for them.
there'll be some other little changes other than our logo. We have a little change to the logo, and it's just our smiling faces. It's not up by the time you listen to this. It will be up very soon after, but it's ready to go. But we're also going to change the frequency of episodes.
Yes, we're going to go to twice a month to give ourselves a little breathing room.
Because the one thing we learned is even though it's so fun and easy to get people together, not as fun and easy to constantly edit and constantly post. Even though, yes, we get some enjoyment out of it, we wanted to give ourselves just a little bit of space and a little bit of a breather. But with that said, we have the ability to have some longer episodes as well.
Yeah, I think that considering how crazy the first year was with so many interviews, so many recordings, many hours. One thing I did not realize was how much work was going to be going into putting this together. The flip side is we got to meet so many amazing people, learn so many things that I didn't want to stop it. I didn't want to stop podcasting. I just wanted to have a little more space.
Yeah, and I'll just
Mhm.
add too, just so you guys know, we do try to our best to batch record. So we have some time off over the summer. We did that. But with that said, we're recording 2 episodes every Sunday for a couple of months at a time we were doing, and it was fun. It was energizing, which is why we were able to do it. But this all takes up time and it takes up space, and it's enjoyable, but we also want it to be sustainable.
Yeah, we don't have people.
Now we don't have people yet.
I listen to Mel Robbins, and she puts out a new episode, like, every day,
She's got people.
but she's got people.
She's got lots of people.
She just has to show up, do the interview, and prep for the next one.
Mhm.
Sh and she doesn't have another job. This is her job,
And she
you
does a
know?
great job at it. Like, she
Oh,
she
yeah.
reads everyone's books that they wrote. She does definitely a significant amount prep, but you're putting out an episode every day and you're interviewing all these people, like, you're constantly prepping.
Oh, yeah. I'm not trying to downplay her, I'm just saying
Oh, no,
that's
not at
her
all.
that's her whole job, and you and I have
We still have some jobby jobbies or a couple jobby jobbies. When I was with Brittany, we were talking to someone and she was like, "You're like, yeah, we have like 3 jobs." And I'm like, "Wait, I do have 3 jobs. How did that happen?" I don't think I consider 2 of them jobs. I think that's why.
Yes, I don't have 3 jobs. I retired from the army. That
That's
was
one.
that was one. I'm like, "Yeah, I just wanna, you know, settle a little bit more and some space in life, prepare for my retirement job,"
That's right.
which is still, like,
In the
many years
works.
away.
It's in the works. It is in the works. It's a process.
It is a process. That is one thing that I have explored more. We did our interview with Nina Glazer on emotion code, body code, and belief code, and went all in on that one. For me, not only did I sign up for an experience with her, but then I went and got certified in emotion code.
Hopefully you're gonna announce that.
So I'm still a novice for sure. But yeah, that's down the path that I'm starting to head for
That's exciting.
that quote unquote retirement job.
Yeah. I guess over the last year, I've made, and I say last year, but really it's the last 9 months. I have really wanted to be coaching people to help them with their anxiety and stress journeys and stories. So I'm proud to say I've made a lot of steps. I'm very close to achieving my goal, which was coaching 100 hours. So I'm not there yet, but I have definitely progressed my way through. I hope you guys check out my Instagram page. I have it nicely set up now as my little storefront. And we could totally put in the show notes. I have a freebie or a gift for everyone called Kundalini to Calm Anxiety. It is literally the first set of Kundalini, like you say, postures, poses, breath work that I did to help me start to shift my nervous system back into regulation. It's a very short set, mind you. You can get through it very quickly, less than 15 minutes, absolutely max. And I coach you through your inbox for 5 days. I'm really proud that I actually put all of this together so far this year. And there's more to come.
Yeah, so exciting, Trish. I know that you've put a lot of work into your business. Are you decreasing your hours at your other job?
It's unofficially official.
Huh?
It's
So
it's
you're starting to
unofficially
grow.
official. It is because even though I love it, and I like my job, but at some point, you need more space to let your creativity flow so you can grow and that you can expand. And I think that's what I did realize over this year, and I probably realized about a month ago, is that I hit my point where I was like, I don't think I can grow anymore unless I start to shift things in my outer world. With that said, trust me, I've had a lot of energetic shifts in my inside world too. So happened on both counts. But yes, that was like the first step. So talk about trying to keep my nervous system regulated.
I'm say we can't get through this episode without talking about the nervous system.
No, we can't. I love it. If anyone is local, I do teach at Product for Peace in Stillwater, New Jersey every Saturday. And these wonderful women come despite the fact that I throw the nervous system in every single week as well. Can't get away from it. It's part of our body. It communicates to us.
I have learned quite a bit about polyvagal theory in this past year.
Did you read the book?
I did.
Yeah. I remember when you got it, I was so excited.
I was like, "Whoo, it's taken me a while." I had to put it down and go back. Put it
Really?
down and go back. Yes, I did.
Gosh. Okay.
Yes.
If everyone loves it like I do, I get it. I feel like I flew through it. Oh my God. The world makes sense now.
You have to understand, I, like, buy a million books, and I'm like, "Oh, I've gotta read that." So I have this, like, stack, and so I'll start
Mint.
reading,
Cool.
and then it's like I get busy, and then
Yes.
I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I bought that book, and I haven't even started it." So I start to read that one, and I abandon the other one. I'm like, "Oh, I have to get back to it."
I'm glad you said that. I did not know that you function how I do with books. I definitely have I have an addiction. We all have addiction to something. I totally have a book buying addiction. I'm not interested in recovering from that whatsoever. I do have times when the addiction's really bad and books are coming in through the mail at a
Yeah.
pretty rapid pace. And then I feel like I have to stop and then nothing happens for a bit. But I do have
Mhm.
many piles of books. But I did this year, I will say, I went through the piles of books that was in my 3 season row. There is no piles on the floor anymore. They are either in a bookshelf, they are in a case, they are in a little decorative box, we'll say. There is a pile in the bedroom, but we did start to depart from some of them.
Yes, I have to depart with some. I'm like, "Okay, some of these I don't wanna keep. They were great, but they're not something that I feel like I need to hold on to and reference."
I still have books from high school.
Yes, so do I.
True
But
confession.
true confession, but
Okay, so what are
books,
your
I'm
books
like, "Oh my
items?
god."
So the 2 books that I have in my head right now that I still had, they're not really feel-good books at all, but one was called A Child Called It, if anyone has read
Oh,
that. It's a very tough story.
I have heard of that,
Yeah,
but I
Child
never
Called
read
It,
it.
A Man Named Ma and then it was a trilogy, Child Called It, A Man Named David, and there was another one in between. I have those books. I I look at this now and I'm like, I should not have been allowed to read those books in high school, but I definitely read above my what was probably told. And the other book was Reviving Ophelia. Did you read that one?
I don't think
Oh,
I've ever heard that one.
probably because you have boys. If you had a girl, that's a good young adult girl book.
One that I have is A Tree Grows in Brooklyn.
Oh, yes.
I kept that one. Another one from actually earlier on that I still have is The Indian in the Cupboard,
Oh,
The Things They Carried. That's something that I read. The Things We Carried. I
yeah.
read that in college. So those are just some that will
I still
stick
have
with
a
me.
bunch of the Gary Zukov books that I read in college
Yeah.
sitting on my shelves. True confessions, I also still had some of my nursing books from college. They are in the boxes in the basement that I haven't went through. That when we moved, I went through, but there were still some I just thought I'd possibly need and have. It may be safe to let go of now.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Yes. I also have an Audible obsession because I spend some time in the car. So I get a lot of books that I listen to on Audible. But then as I'm listening to them, if I really like them, then I buy the book.
So, yeah, I struggled with Audible because I thought I would love it. The thing is, sometimes if I'm not paying attention, I want to scroll back and then I feel, oh, I wish I could underline this and I can't. So I stick with podcasts for my drive. And I read through a lot of them now. So that I've found a place for podcasting in my life
Yes.
other than behind the mic.
Have you thought about whether your intention or our intention with season 2 will shift a little bit, or will it just be more of finding weird shit to share?
It's the integration of weird shit.
How
What do you
so?
think? You think so too?
I feel like it's not all that weird.
Not anymore.
I mean, some things I went into it and I was like, "Ooh, this is gonna be weird. I don't know. I don't know if I'm drinking this Kool-Aid," but just how we've learned so much about ourselves in different ways. A lot of it just integrates within each other, and I'm like, "Okay, I might try that," or, no, probably won't, but that's okay. Being a little bit more accepting of things that I may not have in my past.
Yeah. We create our own normal, right?
Oh,
We
yeah.
we can create our own normal. It's wellness and then a big X over the weird shit.
People are weird.
Oh,
And
yes.
people are really weird, and I started to really think that when I had teenagers. I was like, "You know what? Kids are really weird. Kids are so weird." And then,
You
is it
realize
just
you
m
were a kid and you're like, "I wasn't that weird." And you're like, "Oh, shit, I was that weird. Oh, man, I was really weird. This is embarrassing."
and it's, "Is it just my kids that are weird?" I'm like, "No, I think it's
No.
all kids." Then we started seeing a whole bunch of other kids, and I'm like, "You know what? People are weird. The more that we accept that, it's okay.
Right. It's
Be
just
as weird as you want."
gotta choose your weird. Seriously. Like we said in
Yeah.
the beginning, hold your freak flag up, and that's how you find your people.
Yeah. I will say that interview that you did that I wasn't on, where you guys were talking about rainbow bodies
With Kathleen.
with Kathleen
Wow, that went all over the place,
and
but it all
and
connected.
UFOs.
It was wild.
That was a wild conversation. I was like, "What in the world? Never heard of rainbow bodies. I need to Google rainbow bodies."
And we didn't even touch on that until the end.
Yeah.
I know. That was a fun interview, mostly because I knew we were gonna talk about the Tibetan rainbow bodies. I went in knowing that. What I didn't realize is how we were gonna connect so many different topics.
I was sad I wasn't on that interview.
I know. I think you were sick, right? Was that it?
Probably.
I think you were sick. Boo.
Boo.
Shouldn't.
I feel like I've been sick a lot this last year. Probably stress.
Need to regulate our nervous system, increase our capacity.
I do. I do need to get this stress under control. I will say that also during this last year doing the podcast, I started a whole new job. I left the hospital system after 25 plus years, had retired from the army, and went out into the wild world of ambulatory surgery.
Yes. So we
So
we have some reason.
there was a lot of learning that went on
It
in this
wasn't it
past
wasn't
year.
just the podcast that threw you over the edge.
No,
The editing was so bad. We
Yeah.
were like, "I'm so sick. I can't do this editing anymore."
So that's going to be hopefully something that I get to take away a little bit more in season 2. My nervous system.
It's a fun experience, except for when it's not.
I'm like, now that's I call bullshit on that.
I could argue, yeah, it could be fun when you get to the point. When you get to the point where you feel like you have a pretty large capacity and you actually can notice when your body is like going into that anxiety state, then you actually can start to implement things and seeing how your body reacts and responds and move yourself out of it. It may not be fun in the moment, but afterwards it's like, man, that was awesome. I just got through that myself. And
Yeah.
as someone who lived with it for so long, and I just recently had this experience that I am going to talk about actually on Instagram Live later this week. But the whole thing really was, it's like, oh, wow, like I never even would have noticed this change 5, 10 years ago. I never even would have noticed that my body shifted to begin with, to even have thought, to even realize what the trigger was, and then try to work through different steps of what to do to move forward.
Yeah, I think that's another takeaway is that for me in this past year, because while it was a pretty stressful year with so many changes, I certainly didn't react in the same way that I had, let's say, even 10 years ago, 8 years ago, where certain things would trigger me and I would go off into a spiral. And life keeps coming. We are all going to go through different stressful times in our life. As much as I really want to be able to say that I've regulated my nervous system so well that I'm not going to feel stressed,
We
doesn't
will
work that way.
No, we're always going to experience it, right? It's
Yep.
just, are you living in it or is it a transient experience? Then it's noticing what triggered, noticing what changed in your body, and then working through that. And it may not be like the same thing every single time. You actually have to have that safety built in your system and trust to know that you will get through that. And you may have to try different things than what you
Mhm.
typically use in your toolbox.
Percent.
I got to
Still
be
make
honest,
it.
I thought you were going to do the Ferris Bueller quote. Life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
Oh, yeah.
When you said before, you're like, life keeps moving. And I'm like, is she missing the Ferris Bueller quote? I wouldn't be against closing with a Ferris Bueller quote. I'm just saying.
Why don't we end it there?
All right. Life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it. We're signing off from season 1.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for joining. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow, subscribe, and share with a friend. Want to learn more about a specific topic? Drop us a line on our website and we can explore it deeper with you.